Hello everybody, Mr. V here again, and today we're going to cover just a couple of things, just some more random stuff about our magazine template. So the first thing I want to talk about is making text easier to read. So quite an obvious example here would be right here in my name group or my name grouping. You can see that the actual text that says your name, the part where you would place your name into for this specific photograph, it actually is really hard to see because the picture has a dark background. So that is a really good example of how sometimes you might have to change your color so that your text pops out from the background. So as a general rule of thumb, you want to remember that if you have a dark photograph or a dark background, you're going to need a lighter color for your text. And if you have a lighter color background, then you're going to need darker text. The color shouldn't matter as much, but you want to make sure that that contrasts enough where it's still visible and easily to be read. Okay, now the next thing I want to talk about is something called bylines. Okay, so what is a byline? Well, if we go to our Google page here and we just look up a definition for a byline, you can see different pictures of newspapers and things like that come up in the search. And Google says, actually the Wikipedia website says, a byline on a newspaper or a magazine article gives the name of the writer of the article. Bylines are commonly placed between the headline and the text of the article. Although some magazines place bylines at the bottom of the page to leave more room for graphical elements around the headline. So a byline is exactly what it sounds like. It's whoever wrote the article or took the picture. So normally you'll see the word by, like story by or photograph by, and then the person's name. And that's exactly what comes in here with this template that I gave you guys. If you zoom in, you will see in this name group is actually a byline. Okay, and like I said, you might have to change the color so that you can see this better. And also, as a general rule of thumb, it's good to use sans serif fonts instead of serif fonts so that they're more easy to read. You'll see a lot of times they also use thicker fonts because the font the words are so small, the text is so small for the byline that it's a little bit easier to read if they're like light gray or if they're thicker colors. So you might have to pick a color here that's going to be easier to read, and we can change that from black to white. And you can have multiple colors like this gray color as long as it's you're able to read it. So the story, you could pretty much put your own name. So I could put like by Josh Voiles. Okay, you can put your own name because this is, after all, it is a fake magazine cover. And then you could put photographed by, and then this is where you would put the name of the person who helped you take your photograph. So friend's name would go here, sort of like that. All right, so now let's get off and fit the screen here, and you can see that as a pretty nice looking byline. Okay, there's actually another byline at the bottom. You can use either one that you would like. Okay, now the last thing I want to talk about is justifying your text. So what does it mean to justify? Well, sometimes in trying to make everything fit together or work, you might actually have to move some of your captions from one side of the page to the other. And I even know for some that, your picture is more to one side or the other. And so some of you guys ended up with more room on one side of the page than the other. So some of you guys who had pictures like that, you're having to fit more of your captions on one side. And that's totally cool because a lot of magazines are like that. So if you're one of those people, I'm just going to show you. And even if you're not one of those people and you just want to move one of your captions, you still need to know how to do this. So what I want to do is basically, let's turn off the sticker just for a second. And just for the sake of showing you guys, I want to take this part that says plus And that is basically caption 3, I believe. So if I toggle on and off caption 3, what I can do is I can see that there's all of these layers inside of there. There's the layer that has the word plus. There's a layer that has the white text, a layer that has the subtitle, which is the red text, and then there's the last layer which has story by and that last little byline there at the end. So you can see I've got all 4 of those layers. So instead of moving each one of those one at a time, what I'm going to do is actually click on the whole folder, and then I'm going to command T, and that's going to allow me to transform and carry all of this over to the other side. So this is just an example of having to carry everything from one side to the next. But as you can see, I end up with a problem. And that is, for this caption 3, all of the text lines up on the right side. But I need it to align to the left side now so that it all falls onto this guideline on this side of the page. Sort of like the way my name group does that. Okay, so I need this to do the same thing. So now what I'm going to do is, once I've got the whole thing moved over, I can take my T tool and I can click on a layer, and basically if I highlight the layer, I can come up here to the top and you'll see these 3 buttons at the top. And as you can see, this is actually what's called your alignment. So you can call it justification. That is one word for it, but alignment is another word. So right now I'm selecting on right side justification. I'm going to change that to left side. And you know, it might kind of squiggle out of the way there, so you just have to kind of move it back into place. And that is how you would get your text to line up. And you just go through each layer and change that from right side to left. So by the time you do that and move it all back into place, you should see something that looks like this. Okay, pretty neat, right? And you know, we can put a little bit more space in between those because I think they did have more space to start out. And then we can shrink the text there. And you know, obviously I'm not spending the time to fix the kerning and the leading, but that is definitely something that you have to do. So guys, I wanted to show you how to do your just left or right side justification, or another word for it, left or right side alignment. And as you can see, there's also a center, but you know, for the most part, we're not really using that. But just as long as you know that it's there. All right, guys. So that is your tutorial for today. Try to apply this stuff on your work. And remember, we are getting closer to the deadline. So let's see how much we can get done and be creative today. Thanks for watching. God bless.